Hello and welcome to the NovaTime Technical Library. Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we'll focus on the report generator within the NovaTime 4000 and 5000 systems. You can use the report generator to report on a wide variety of data elements within the system. To access the report generator, just navigate to the Reports category and select Report Generator. You can ignore the Quick Summary tab if configured within your system, as today we're just going to focus on the reports that you can generate from within this single page. The Report Generator page will then take you to an overview of where you can see all the available templates that are available to you, as well as a brief description of these report templates. You'll also see tabs indicating properties. This is where we'll set up the individual properties for each report. You can then preview, and should a report take longer than a few minutes to run, the system will automatically store this and run it in the background so you can access later. Let's start by focusing on the categories area of this page. On the left hand side of this page, you'll notice that there are several report categories available to you. Each category then contains templates from within that category. You may or may not see these categories and individual templates based on the configuration by your system administrator. Let's start by selecting a single template. We're going to use the employee time card. So by clicking on the employee time card, you're going to see the right-hand pane change to the overall properties page. This is where we can modify individual details of this report. Should you just want to see what this report looks like straight out of the box, you can just click on Preview. Preview will then run the report, return the data for that report, again in its predefined format with no changes to it. So as this report runs, you'll be given indicators, and the report then will display within the display area. So you'll see that we have the time and attendance employee time card report, and it will return all data that was relevant for the parameters within the properties page. Now that you've seen the report, you can go back to the properties page and start modifying this should you want to make changes to this report. The first thing we can do is anywhere we see these double arrows, this means that you can modify the report. Okay, so I'm going to go down each of these properties areas and discuss briefly what these mean. If you click on the output format, we have several formats that we can export each report to. By default, you're going to have these reports run to a nicely designed PDF report. Should you want to do more with the data, you can also export to Excel, where you may filter, put pivot tables, or run individual reports on top of each other, combine views to come up with some of your own ad hoc reporting. We can also do rich text format or Word documents, or HTML code. HTML code is useful in those companies that maybe want to print reports out to intranet pages or internet pages to be viewable by others. Okay, I'm going to leave this as basic Adobe PDF for the time being. Primary filter is where we can now decide which employees subset we want to run the reports for. By default, we will see all employees. You can also use group filters. And group filters also contains important things like employee status. It's important to know that by default, the report engine will include all employees, including active, inactive, and those on leave. If we only want to include those that are active, we can then just move active over to the right-hand side, and now we're only going to see active employees. We can also select individuals by employee ID or by employee last name, and again, these are the same thing. Should we want to only run certain employees within this report, we can find them in the list, and I'm going to find our friend Tim Tebow, who's our test employee, and I'm going to move them over to the right. So now we are just, instead of running on all employees, I may want to run an employee time card just for Tim, so I can run a quicker report than having to report on all employees. We can also use other group filters, things like our work groups. So within the system, we've configured multiple work groups. So you can also now say, I want to filter on a specific location, maybe a specific company, department, job, etc. You can do that just in the same way that we filtered based on employee status. So let's say I want to filter on a certain department. I can expand department, and I want to filter on maybe the Canton department only. Okay, very easy for you to define a subgroup of employees that you want to see within your report versus reporting on all employees that you have access to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this filter out because I've already set my filter up before that I want to run for my friend Tim Tebow. Okay, so now when this refreshes, we can go on to the rest of the options within the report. Okay, so let's just reset this so that we can run one employee. Okay, now depending on the report, you'll have additional options for each report. Fields to display. So what fields do we want to see in the report? And this is basically related to the employee. Do I want to see the employee ID, the badge number, job title? Again, these are all default, but maybe I only want to see the employee ID and maybe the employee's name. So I'm going to remove everything from the right hand side and then put it to the and then pick full name and move it to the right hand side. Okay, so now within the report I see employee ID and full name. Okay, I can also do additional filters. So in addition to the primary filter, I can say, you know what, maybe I want to make this a report that's specific to a certain pay code. Okay, so maybe I want to run a report for Tim and see only the work hours. Maybe I want to see vacation, maybe I want to see sick, and maybe there's another code down here in the list that I also want to see. Maybe I want to see my pay code 28. Okay, so now instead of reporting on all pay codes, I'm going to do an additional filter for these 4 pay codes. Okay. So now we get to the meat of the report. What type of data do I want to see in the report? So within the data selections, I'm going to click on the drop down here, and the data selections then are going to give me the actual data that I want to see. So by default, I've got my elements on the right hand side that were within the template, but maybe I also want to see some additional elements in here. Things like, well, let's just say I want to add another overtime column to the report. Okay, so now that overtime column is now over here as OT. Okay, and I can move it up here and I can resort as I want. I can also add maybe the original end time to the report in case case there was modified punches. Okay, so I can now say in original, and I can move this up to the report where I want. Okay, I'm going to say in original next to the end time that we captured. Okay. The next part of the report is date range. Date range is important in the sense that we have a lot of predefined date ranges. Okay, so very easy for you to go back in time, select current pay periods, prior pay periods. Maybe you want to do today only. Today would be a good example for an exception report. Maybe you want to see who's been tardy today, or maybe missed punches for yesterday. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and keep it on current pay period. More importantly, I want you to take note of the custom field. The custom allows you to do historical reporting. So maybe you need to go back and run reports for longer than a few months. So now you can go back and put a time range within the custom field that allows you to do that historical reporting. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to current pay period, as I know I have data in there. Again, some additional options within this report. How do I want to sort it? So if you were running on multiple employees, you could then sort based on the elements that are in the report. So if you had department and position, okay, very easy for you to break the report down by department, then by position, so you could see your labor hours or time cards in this particular report in that order. If you have additional fields added to your report, if you remember, we added employee ID and full name to the list, you can then also add those elements. So I'm going to also sort by employee ID. Okay. All right, this next section, additional options, this is really where you're going to see any options that are specific to that report. So each report template will have its own set of additional options. So if I expand this section, you'll see the additional options that are specific to the employee time card report. So here I have the ability to put signature lines. Maybe I want to modify that. I certify the above information to be correct to the best of my knowledge. Okay, so you can modify the signature line. You can decide how many decimal places are in the report. Do you want to create sub-reports? For the time card, we have the ability to also show notes that may have been associated with that time card. We can show any audit information that was associated to that time card, as well as pay matrix if you're using accrual data. For now, I don't want to show accrual. I can also create a summary section if you're using time distribution within your environment, or if you want to show the audit to the time distribution area, you can also include those as sub-reports. So it's important to see the additional options because these are specific to each template within the report generator. I can also include differential or premium pay should I have those within my workplace. Some more options: you can exclude employees with no hours, no reason to keep them on a report if there's nothing to report. You can include adjustments, so maybe you're using the retro pay module where you can go back and modify time from prior pay periods. Do you want to show absentees? Okay. Do you want to show primary source groups description or display all employees by borrowing manager? Again, I'm not going to go into each of these options because each category or each template has its own additional options. These are for you to develop the report specific to your needs. Okay, so now that I've set these options, I want to go preview my report. By previewing my report, I see that now I have Tim Tebow, I have my time card, I also have my notes. There were no notes to display, as well as my audit information. So a nice report based on what I've set up in the parameters. So now what I want to do is, instead of having to spend 5-10 minutes every time I come in and run a report, I can now save all these changes that I've done. I can scroll back down to the bottom of the properties page. I can expand my publish section, and maybe I want to go ahead and name this report. Okay, so maybe I want to call it Tim's time card. Okay, and so what happens is, by naming it Tim's time card, I have the ability now to come back in and run this report in the future. I can also give it further description if I want to. Maybe I want to say that it's for the current period only. Okay, and then I have additional option. I can say, who do I want to publish this to? I can publish it to myself. I can select a group of users. I can publish it to everyone, or I can publish it to access groups, things like administrators, payroll administrators, supervisors. I can choose who I want to share this report with. It's important to know that even though you may have access to all employees, if you share this report with someone else, they'll only be able to run this report for the employees that they have access to. So the report generator inherits security for each user running the report engine. Okay, so for now I'm going to go ahead and publish it to myself, and I'm going to show you what that means. If I hit publish, I'm going to then scroll back up to the top of the properties page, and you're going to notice something on the left hand side that wasn't there prior. I've now got a published area. I've got Ty, I'm logged in as user Ty, and now I see Tim's time card. This is the report that I just published. If someone else publishes a report to me, I'm going to see it up here in the public reports. Okay, so I'm going to give a quick example of making a public report. So if I scroll back down to publish, I can publish this report again. Okay, so if maybe I want to call this Tim's time card 2, and I want to publish to all users. And now if I hit publish, what I want you to see is when I scroll back up to the top, I now have Tim's time card 2 in the public reports. One thing I want to tell you, if someone publishes a report to you and it shows up in this public reports, you're going to notice that my double blue arrows all throughout the report generator have gone away. I can now no longer modify the data or the setup of this report because someone else had created this report for me. However, we have added a feature in NovaTime that says, I like this report so much, I want a copy of this report so that I can modify it. By clicking the little red plus, you're going to now see up in the published report that I have Tim's time card 2 copied to my personal reports. This now allows me to modify all aspects of the report that were not in the original user's report. Okay, that was a basic time card report. I'm going to show another example of a report called the exception report. So within the time and attendance category, I'm going to expand exception report. This is a powerful tool that can be used between supervisors to help manage the data within the NovaTime system. One of the things we like to talk about the NovaTime system is that it has a ton of data. However, getting to that data can sometimes be multiple clicks. Which page was that data on? So the report engine is meant to simplify this and find that needle in the haystack. So the exception report, I'm going to go ahead and say that I want to report on all of my employees, and I want to see those that were absent, those that had a missed punch, and those that were tardy. I'm not necessarily caring about the rest of these exceptions. I just want to focus on these 3 exceptions. Based on this data selection, now I can set my thresholds. So I can say within my tardy, I want to see those that were tardy more than 5 minutes. Okay, so I can set in my exception threshold a tardy of 5 minutes, and these will be the values that show on the report. I can then go back and set a date range. Okay, I can set my date range and say, and as I mentioned in the last segment, I might want to see all of those that had these exceptions yesterday. Okay, because this will then help me determine who I need to go into the system and look at and maybe modify their data. Again, I have primary sort, additional sort, some additional options for this report, just as we mentioned within the last segment, as well as my publish too. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this report because if you noticed, I took exceptions away from this template, so I don't want to have to come in and move those exceptions out every time. So I'm going to go ahead and run my daily, I'm going to call it daily exception report. Okay, and I'm going to publish it just to myself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit publish. Okay, so now what this has done is it's moved it into daily exception report in the published area of the report generator page. The last thing I want to show on the report generator page is once you've published a report, now you're going to notice that there's an additional section at the very bottom, and this is one of the most powerful things within the report generator. As long as you have email address set up within the system, you can actually have the system email you this report without ever you having to log into the system. And the nice thing about this, just as in the example of the exception report, I might want to see this every day at 8 a.m. when I come in for the day prior. So I'm going to go ahead and say email report. I'm going to run this report periodically. You know what, I want to run it Monday through Friday. So I'm going to remove Saturday and Sunday. And I want to run this report every day at 8 a.m. So I'll just type in my 0800. Okay. And then I'm just going to say email user list. I'm going to find my name in the list, or maybe I want to share it with a couple of people. I can do that. Okay, and then as soon as I have set this up, I'm going to hit save within this publish area. And now this report is set up for me to get this distributed on a daily basis at 8 a.m. Very powerful feature for you to use within the report writer to not even have to go in and look for that data on a daily basis. Okay, so today we've talked about the report generator and how to get data out of the NovaTime 4000 and 5000 system using our report writer. We've talked about running specific reports from categories and templates, and again, you may or may not see one or more of these categories and templates depending on your system configuration by your administrator. We've talked about saving reports in the published area, whether a public report or personal report. Again, so you do not have to configure these parameters every time you come into the system and can instead execute through a single click. Okay. We've also talked about the scheduling of reports and how to be able to distribute these reports in an automated time and day. So for the example, we use the daily exception report, the ability to have that report emailed to you frequently so you can review the data without having to look at the system. The one last thing I want to show you is that when you have published a report, if within the dashboard you have the user reports gadget enabled, you can run these reports directly from the dashboard. You can then click on a report and it'll run, take you directly to the report category and show you the preview of that report. So I hope you found this video informational and helpful. The report generator is a very powerful tool, and it will take some time to understand all of the reporting capabilities out of there, but feel free to contact your support specialist or implementation consultant and we'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching today's video.